No mention of a push for federalism or any constitutional amendment in President Bongbong Marcos's first SONA. What are the prospects of a charter change in this administration? Let's speak now with former Comelec Commissioner Rene Sarmiento, who was also a member of the 1986 Constitutional Commission. Rene, thank you so much for joining us. Let's take a look at why President Marcos did not mention in his SONA federalism. Rene? Rene, can you hear me? Rene? Rene, you're on mute. Can you hear me? Looks like we're experiencing some connectivity issues with Rene Sarmiento.
Okay.
Rene, can you hear
Rico,
me?
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rico.
So
yeah,
why wasn't
I can hear you, Rico.
federalism? Why wasn't federalism mentioned in the president's first SONA?
Rico, there was no mention whatsoever with any constitutional reform because that is a major constitutional reform. But if you ask me, Rico, I think too premature to talk about constitutional reform at this stage. I think what we need are electoral reforms, Rico.
Yeah. But
Because
his
we have
allies,
won a very antiquated omnibus election code that was passed in 1985. And we all know that election is the lifeblood of a democratic nation.
right.
So I think that has to be addressed, Rico. For instance, automated election system has to be improved. Number two, about the issue of the party-less system has to be fine-tuned and refined. Number three, about the selection of Comelec commissioners in chairman, because up to this time we have no Comelec chair and two Comelec commissioners.
So
Number
Rene,
four, Rico.
Rene, I'd
Yes,
like to
yes,
jump
Rico.
in. Rene, I'd like to jump in. If electoral reforms should be the priority of this new administration and of both houses of Congress, do you think that federalism will ever become a reality during this the term of President Marcos?
Well, Rico, that is very possible. Maybe not now, but 2 or 3 years from now, we can talk about federalism because it would require much discussion and much study by our people. So too premature, it will be very divisive. But after addressing other issues like food security, health, connectivity, education, then we can talk about federalism.
All right. But to change the Constitution and shift from the current form of government to federalism, how long will this process take, Rene?
Well, Rico, there are two ways of changing the Constitution, either by constitutional convention, which can be done via election, selecting the delegates, or the Congress sitting itself as a constituent body to amend the Constitution, Rico. But I think our people would prefer a constitutional convention rather than Congress sitting itself because of too much partisanship and politicking.
And of course, during the time of the former President Duterte, there was also a push for federalism. It never materialized. Do you think it has a stronger chance of making it within the first 6 years of President Marcos Jr.?
Rico, it has a very good chance if submitted to the people for discussion, if there is opportunity for dialogue and much publicity about what is federalism, the pros and the cons, making people understand what is federalism, then that is possible, Rico. As a matter of fact, I prepared a primer on federalism. After studying federalism in many countries, I think what we need is education for our people to appreciate what federalism is all about.
All right, briefly,
But not at this time, Rico.
Briefly, Rene, how different is federalism from our current form of government?
Very different, Rico, because our government is too centralized. Powers are too concentrated on the president and Metro Manila. If we federalize, then we give more powers to local governments. There will be regional governments, and people will have much say in running their own affairs. And as tested in many countries, Rico, USA, some European countries, it has proven successful But again, we have to study it, to weigh the pros and the cons, make the people understand
Right.
and appreciate what federalism is all about.
Because some critics are saying in our political environment, federalism will only strengthen political dynasties in the regional governments and perpetrate themselves in power and amass vast wealth through corruption.
There is a good way, Rico, of addressing political dynasty. What we can do is to include in the Constitution a provision prohibiting political dynasties in the provinces, in the regions, and defining what is political dynasty. It has been in the back burner of Congress for a long, long time, since the ratification of the 86 Constitution, and the Congress has never approved or fleshed out that constitutional provision. So there should be a provision, Rico, that would accompany this clamor for change of government.
Thank you, Sir Rene, for your insights on federalism. Former Comelec Commissioner Rene Sarmiento, a member of the 1986 Constitutional Commission.